Alright, what's going on everybody? Cryptix, and as you can tell from the title and thumbnail, man, like, it looks like I'm about to take a huge dumpster dump in a 10-minute video with a ton of ads in it on Battlefield 2042, just being super negative. But in reality, I actually hope that this Battlefield is the best game in the franchise. I hope it can actually last just as long as some of the other great games in the Battlefield franchise, such as Battlefield 3 and 4 and even Battlefield 1 for that matter. And at the end of the day, I just want, a different type of game to play other than, Warzone or Halo or, things of that nature. Apex, you know what I mean? So we're going to jump into a couple of things, but there is some reality, okay, about the Battlefield 2042 release in terms of pricing, in terms of some of its competitors, and a huge hack that was actually done at Electronic Arts. There was actually hackers involved, and we're going to get into some nitty-gritty details, but Electronic Arts is the developer of Battlefield and the whole franchise. So before we jump into the rest of the video, ladies and gentlemen, I know every YouTuber says this, but don't forget to drop a like. It helps my channel out. I'm a smaller YouTube channel. I don't even know if this is going to show up in anybody's recommended feed. So if you can, drop a like and maybe we can get 100 likes on this vid, the video will get more out there to more people, and then we just grow as a community. You know what I'm saying? And if you are new to the channel, of course, hit that subscribe button because that's also how we grow. Let's get into it. All right. So the first thing I want to just hit home on is the Battlefield 2042 game itself, right? It looks great. It looks phenomenal. There's tornadoes going on, like, in certain parts of the map, and it can actually completely change the game in terms of lighting, in terms of building structures being completely demolished by, these types of weather storms, just like how they would in real life. Kind of seems a little over the top to me to have a tornado in almost every match or even half the matches, but hey, it does make the game a little bit more exciting, and who knows, maybe it'll actually be more enjoyable to kind of switch up the pace compared to all the static maps that we have in other video games, right? So yeah, the game looks great. It doesn't seem like it's set too far into the future, and it just looks like it's going to be a promising game for what Battlefield stands for. However, it seems to me that there's not going to be a campaign in this game, and it's not going to have any type of battle royale. And I know some people feel differently about battle royale, but it doesn't hurt to have that game mode within a game like Battlefield. And the pricing for this game is $70 US. You guys can convert it if you're in other foreign countries, but at the end of the day, that is a lot to ask for compared to some of the other competitors that are already existent or coming out when Battlefield 2042 releases, that are going to be free-to-play games, right? Battlefield 2042, I'm just talking too fast. My mind's racing over here. Battlefield 2042 is a game that's not going to have a campaign, not going to have a battle royale. It's going to have, what they showed us, which is fantastic. But to have the pricing set at $70 while the other competitors that we're going to be mentioning are, free, it's really going to hurt the opportunity for growth in the franchise, okay? And if, X amount of people buy Battlefield 2042 and maybe some people buy it later on when it goes on sale, you are basically setting a ceiling on yourself on the amount of people that are going to be playing your game. And that also will have to do with the longevity of the game, right? If, not as many people are playing it, or, the game starts to decrease in player base, or average players, or concurrent players, whatever metric you want to look at, it's slowly going to decline as time goes on. We've seen this with all the Battlefield games, right? Yeah, 3 and 4, they still have a dedicated player base, but imagine if those games were free to play right now. People would be jumping online to those, right? Well, Battlefield 2042 is going to have a $70 price, okay? So comment down below what you feel about that. Now we're going to be jumping into the competitor aspect of this. Now the competitors that we can kind of, align with Battlefield are obviously, games like Call of Duty, right? Games like Warzone, which I guess it's its own separate entity, but it is Call of Duty. And I would even lump in together some of the other mainstream first-person shooters, okay? I have no problem adding in Apex Legends, even though it's really nothing like Battlefield, just because what Battlefield is trying to do is become like a top 5 games that is streamed on Twitch, right? They want to be that next Warzone. They want to be, the top dog when it comes to popularity, and they are doing certain, innovations within the game, but they're not going to hit the levels of Apex. They're not going to hit the levels of, Call of Duty Warzone. They're not going to hit the levels of games like Halo Infinite, which, mind you, was just released at E3 today, and actually that game is going to be free to play. Let me repeat that, okay? Halo Infinite is going to be free to play. So with that being said, it's getting a little murky here, okay? It's getting a little murky here for Battlefield already because of the base price. The game still looks great, don't get me wrong, but the base price being $70, that's tough. And then you have other competitors out there that are going to be the top dogs just because they are free, such as Warzone, such as Apex Legends. Apex Legends and Warzone are both games that are going to be cross-compatible or already are cross-compatible, right? I think Apex is still doing some extra innovations to really get everybody involved with cross-platform, which basically just means that you can play someone on another console, such as an Xbox One or Xbox Series X, and you can be on the PlayStation 5 or you can be on your desktop computer. So those two games are already going to compete with Battlefield regardless if you want them to or not. And then you're going to have, Halo Infinite coming out. And yes, I know that has nothing to do with Battlefield. Those are two completely different games. But in terms of the positioning that Battlefield wants to be in, there's going to be games that are just going to outcompete Battlefield, even if they have no correlation with, the first-person shooters in the year of 2042 anyway. Because they are free to play, there's going to be more people gravitating to those games compared to Battlefield 2042 because of that, okay? Halo Infinite is just another one of those games, and I believe the multiplayer version, not to get it mixed up with the campaign, the multiplayer portion of it is going to be free to play. Let me just clear that out of the water. Now, with that being said, we really got to talk about the huge bombshell that is going to make me personally nervous to even play Battlefield 2042 when it does release, okay? And I'm not trying to fearmonger, right? This is just my own personal opinion. I'll probably end up getting the game at some point, but I'm gonna try to lay low. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna be at the bird's eye view in the mountains watching this whole thing unfold, right? So if you guys don't know, basically EA got hacked by a bunch of hackers. Yes, the FBI, there's a bunch of agencies basically investigating the whole situation, but hackers broke through two-factor authentication through some of the staff workers that actually work at EA, and they were able to download source code for the Frostbite engine. Now, I know that may sound super nerdy to some of you maybe not so much. So the Frostbite engine is essentially the engine that powers the game. It is the ins and outs. It is the coding. It is the environmental, destruction of, what Battlefield is a part of. Frostbite is the, it's just everything that Battlefield has been for the past half a decade or maybe even close to a decade. And, the fact that the source code is essentially the code that develops the engine to begin with. The fact that hackers were able to download that means that people could reverse engineer it, figure out some loopholes in the code. They can basically do their own research, look through it, maybe even sell it on, the black market or the dark web to other people that are maybe interested in purchasing the, source code for Frostbite. Basically what this means is that people now have their hands on it. The public potentially has their hands on the Frostbite engine and all of it to begin with. Gigabytes, hundreds of gigabytes of data on this source code. And what can happen is, other video game companies, potentially, I'm not saying this is ever going to happen, but potentially could take some of the Frostbite engine innovations and use it for their own engine. But the thing that I'm more worried about, okay, because that's something that EA has to worry about. The one thing I'm worried about as a player, okay, is the fact that hackers could find the loopholes in the Frostbite engine and then reverse engineer it, find some, kink in the engine itself, and then hack it so hackers can essentially run amok on Battlefield 2042. Now, this is already happening with Warzone. Like, I've run into plenty of hackers over the past few weeks, and it really kills my vibe. It really kills my enjoyment of playing the game. Sometimes I get so turned off that I actually turn off my PlayStation 5. And I'm just really, just genuinely, frustrated when I lose to someone that is just simply hacking the game because they are not good without their hacks, right? So what's going to end up happening, or what could potentially end up happening, is Battlefield 2042 could be hacked to the point that the game may be unplayable for the first few weeks. And this is hypothetical, right? But the fact that EA's, main engine for this game was hacked, easily 5 months before the game's going to release is very, very concerning. That gives 5 months for hackers to do whatever they want. That gives a lot of time to those type of people to reverse engineer the source code, to develop hacking engines, to, have wall hacks, to do certain things. We've already seen it in Call of Duty. It might happen to Battlefield 2042. So do I think, as a whole, is Battlefield 2042 going to be bad? It might be rough for the first few weeks if hackers can actually get the source code figured out and rewired and stuff like that, right? There's potential that the game is great, and all these bad things that I just laid out are just minute details in the grand scheme of things. Maybe Battlefield 2042, that feels like such a tongue twister. I can't get my mouth to say the word, okay? But there's potential that the game is great and there's no issues, and everything that I just said is just it's irrelevant, right? And then there's a chance that all the things that I mentioned could result in Battlefield 2042 just not being an enjoyable game, and maybe has a lifespan of 5, 6, maybe 7 months because of the source code being hacked. Because there's so many other gaming developers jumping into the mainstream approach of making their base game free to play and then cosmetics to be, microtransactions. And we're seeing this a lot of the time, man. Apex, Warzone, Halo Infinite's going to be out. It's not looking the greatest so far for Battlefield 2042. And the fact that that game is going to be $70 upon release, I don't know, man. EA may be shooting themselves in the foot with this one. So I hope you all did enjoy this video. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, comment down below what you think about, or how do you feel about this Battlefield 2042 situation. Oh my gosh, can't say that word today. But I definitely want to know your thoughts about this whole thing. Do you think it's going to be a bad game? Do you think because of all the things that I mentioned, the external sources essentially are going to ruin this game before it even drops? Or do you think it's going to be a great game? I want to hear your comments down below. I'm Cryptix, not going to be hacking EA's servers at all, ever. That is never happening, because I'm a little smarter than that. And signing off.